Have you ever felt like something inside you is slowly fading away, even when everything outside seems fine? That's not just fatigue. It's your soul whispering louder and louder, desperate to be heard. Carl Jung believed that every moment we betray our true self, we plant seeds of inner decay, and eventually, life comes back to collect the emotional debt. In the modern world, we're trained to survive, to please, to succeed, but rarely to listen. And as we bury our authentic desires under layers of obligation, a silent cry emerges. At first, it's a subtle sense of unease, then it becomes a hollow emptiness. And finally, when ignored for too long, it becomes a crisis, mental, emotional, even physical. Jung understood this silence as the shadow self pushing for attention. He taught us that the soul doesn't disappear, it waits. And when you abandon yourself long enough, life will crash down not to punish you, but to awaken you. The silent cry of your soul is not weakness, it's a call back home. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Jung's words hit like lightning because they speak to a truth we've all sensed, but often deny. When you live only for the world's expectations, you die inside. Every time you say yes to others but no to yourself, you reinforce a deep, unconscious betrayal of your essence. Jung didn't offer easy answers. He offered a mirror. He challenged people to explore their own darkness, to walk into their internal wilderness. That journey is terrifying because it demands we confront who we are without the masks, but it's also sacred. The inner journey Jung taught is where healing begins. It's where wholeness is forged. To prioritize yourself is not selfishness, it's integrity. It's reclaiming pieces of your soul that were scattered through years of denial, trauma, and conformity. And every step toward yourself is a step away from internal conflict. You cannot be at peace in a life that excludes your own truth. Why do people repeat destructive patterns? Why do we attract pain we swear we want to escape? Jung had an answer. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The parts of us we refuse to see, the anger, fear, insecurity, shame, don't vanish, they fester. These denied aspects of the self are what Jung called the shadow. It is everything we repress, reject, or are ashamed of. And the irony? The more we push it away, the more power it gains over us. The shadow is like a child, ignored, it throws tantrums. But listened to, it reveals hidden gifts. Shadow work, according to Jung, is not about judging yourself, it's about reclaiming yourself. Because buried within those shadows are your suppressed passions, your forgotten strengths, your real voice. Healing begins not by running from the shadow, but by facing it with courage and compassion. We all wear masks. At work, we perform. In public, we pretend. We say we're fine when we're breaking. But every mask we put on distances us further from our authentic self. Carl Jung named this false identity the persona, the version of us we craft to be accepted, approved, or loved by others. The persona serves a purpose. It helps us function in society, but problems arise when we start believing the mask is who we are. Over time, we forget our own voice. We say yes to things we hate. We become experts in pleasing others while slowly abandoning the very essence of who we are. And this disconnection doesn't just stay in the mind, it seeps into the body. Anxiety, chronic fatigue, depression, they are often symptoms of a soul forced to perform instead of live. Jung warned that when the gap between who we are and who we pretend to be grows too wide, something inside begins to shatter. Most people think healing is about adding something, more therapy, more tools, more knowledge. But sometimes, the most powerful act of healing is subtraction, saying no, drawing boundaries, choosing discomfort over betrayal. Carl Jung believed that every time we say no to something that hurts us, we say yes to our own transformation. Why is it so hard to say no? Because we fear being unloved, rejected, or alone. But people-pleasing is often the cage that keeps our wounds bleeding. Jung taught that true growth begins when we stop prioritizing harmony over honesty, when we stop shrinking ourselves for others' comfort. Every time you say no to what drains you, you create space for what heals you. That space is sacred. It's the beginning of emotional rebirth. And while saying no might lose you people who benefited from your silence, it will reconnect you with the part of yourself you were never meant to lose. Imagine locking your deepest needs in a room and throwing away the key. That's what self-denial does. You may still function, but inside you're starving. Carl Jung believed that much of human suffering stems from the chronic neglect of the self, when we betray our emotions in order to conform to roles, beliefs, or expectations. The world celebrates sacrifice, but unchecked self-sacrifice turns into emotional starvation. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't love fully when you haven't first honored your own soul. Jung saw suffering not as punishment, but as a signal, an invitation to return to yourself. Healing begins with radical honesty. It starts when you stop running from your needs, your pain, your truth. Only when we stop abandoning ourselves can we truly begin to feel whole again. Have you ever felt exhausted for no reason, or carried an ache in your chest that no scan could explain? That's not just stress. It's your soul trying to speak through your body. Carl Jung believed that when we silence our emotional truths, they find other ways to be heard, through anxiety, illness, or pain. The body is not separate from the psyche, it's a mirror of it. Every unresolved emotion, grief, rage, shame, settles somewhere in our muscles, our breath, our posture. Modern science is only now catching up to what Jung intuited, that unexpressed pain will eventually demand expression one way or another. When you prioritize yourself, your rest, your needs, your healing, you don't just feel better emotionally. Your body begins to release what it's been carrying. Prioritizing your well-being is not luxury, it's medicine. Your body has always been loyal to you. The question is, when will you start listening? There's a myth that loving yourself means ignoring others, but Carl Jung shattered that idea. He taught that until you truly love and accept yourself, your love for others is fractured, conditional, or performative. Self-love is not narcissism. It's the foundation of emotional truth. To love yourself means to stand by yourself in your worst moments, to forgive your own darkness, to recognize your worth even when the world doesn't reflect it back. Jung saw this as a revolution, not external, but internal. A rebellion against every belief that taught you that your needs are too much or that your feelings don't matter. Real healing starts when you turn your compassion inward, when you stop waiting for others to give you what you keep denying yourself. And when you do that, when you fully choose yourself, you radiate a presence that can heal others too. Because the most powerful people are not the loudest. They're the ones who have made peace within. You can't heal what you won't see. And in a world full of distractions, the hardest thing to do is to stop and truly look at yourself. But Carl Jung believed that conscious self-observation was the beginning of all transformation. Not judgment, not guilt, but awareness. When you look in the mirror with honesty, not to criticize but to understand, you begin to see your patterns, your fears, your unmet needs. And from that awareness, choice is born. You can't choose a different path if you don't even know which one you're on. The mirror is your first therapist. It doesn't lie. It reflects your joy, your pain, your longing. And when you dare to face yourself with love and courage, something miraculous happens. The shame begins to dissolve. The healing flows in. And you no longer walk through life as a stranger to yourself. From the moment we're born, the world begins to shape us. Expectations, norms, unspoken rules, they're everywhere, invisible yet heavy. Carl Jung called this influence the collective unconscious, a shared psychic inheritance that silently dictates what we should feel, want, and become. But what happens when your truth doesn't fit the mold? We learn to suppress what doesn't align. Sensitivity becomes weakness. Individuality becomes rebellion. And before we realize it, We're living a life written by someone else's script. The world tells us who to be, but Jung warned, if you follow that blindly, you risk never meeting your true self. True healing means stepping back from the noise of society and asking, what is mine and what was given to me? The moment you stop trying to fit in, you begin to fit into your own soul, and in that space, your wounds stop being prisons and start becoming portals to truth. Guilt is a double-edged sword. At times, it teaches us morality, but when distorted, it becomes a weapon we use against ourselves. Carl Jung believed that guilt, when unconscious, can become a lifelong punishment we carry for simply being human. And too often, we mistake guilt for responsibility. We feel guilty for saying no, for resting, for wanting more. But guilt, when examined, often reveals outdated beliefs, internalized shame from childhood or societal conditioning. Jung taught that these inner voices aren't our own. They're echoes of the past, still echoing in our present. The antidote isn't perfection. It's compassion. When you offer yourself the same kindness you'd give a wounded friend, something softens. The emotional chains begin to break. Self-compassion isn't weakness, it's radical strength, because when you choose to forgive yourself, you reclaim the energy that guilt has stolen for years. Every night, your unconscious paints images, symbols, and stories across the canvas of your dreams. Carl Jung didn't see dreams as meaningless chaos. He saw them as sacred messages coded in the language of the soul. Dreams, he said, are the guiding words of the soul. In a dream, the shadow may appear as a stranger. The inner child may show up in a flooded room. Every symbol, every scene is a mirror, reflecting emotions we suppress by day. When we ignore our dreams, we ignore a part of ourselves that is still trying to speak. To interpret dreams is to enter a dialogue with your inner world. It's a way of saying, I'm listening, and when the unconscious feels heard, it no longer needs to shout. The nightmares calm, the symbols soften, and healing, like a whisper in the dark, begins to take root. There's a silent lesson you teach every time you say, I'm not available for that anymore. It's not in the words, but in the energy, the boundary, the quiet decision to stop abandoning yourself. Carl Jung understood that the way we treat ourselves becomes a blueprint for how the world will treat us. When you begin to choose yourself, something profound shifts, not just within, but all around. Most people live their lives teaching others that they are second, third, or even last on their own list. They stretch themselves thin to be accepted, to be loved, to be worthy. But love given in exchange for silence is not love. It's survival. Jung would say this is not love at all, but the echo of unresolved wounds seeking validation. When you finally decide to prioritize your own soul, you stop teaching people that your pain is acceptable. You stop allowing your value to be negotiated, and you start radiating a kind of clarity that repels those who benefit from your self-neglect and draws those who recognize your worth without needing to be convinced. But here's the truth, few are willing to face. Choosing yourself isn't always rewarded immediately. At first, it may feel like loss. You might lose people, opportunities, illusions, the false security that came from being agreeable, convenient, and small. But over time, the space left behind becomes fertile ground. In that space, real love can grow. Not the love that demands your silence, but the love that rises from your truth. You don't have to scream to teach people how to treat you. You just have to stop shrinking. Stop saying yes when your soul is screaming no. And stop hoping that one day the world will finally choose you when you haven't yet made that choice yourself. There's a room inside you that you rarely enter. It's filled with the parts of yourself you were told to hide. The anger, the envy, the fear, the wildness. These fragments live in what Carl Jung called the shadow, the unconscious dimension of the psyche that holds everything we reject or repress. And it's in this dark room, ironically, that the brightest healing begins. Jung didn't fear the shadow. He respected it. He believed that our refusal to face our own darkness is the very thing that gives it power. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, he said, but by making the darkness conscious. This isn't metaphor, it's method, a path not of escape, but of integration. So what does it mean to integrate the shadow? It means sitting with the discomfort instead of running from it. It means allowing yourself to feel the emotions you've labeled bad, ugly, or dangerous, and understanding their origin. It's asking, why am I so afraid of my own anger? Why does jealousy consume me? Why do I sabotage love when I most want to be loved? Most people avoid these questions. They distract, perform, and project. But when you finally stop and face the shadow, not as a monster, but as a misunderstood part of yourself, healing becomes inevitable. Because within that shadow lies strength, passion, creativity, power. The shadow is not your enemy. It's the part of you that was exiled but never stopped knocking on the door. And when you open that door with compassion and curiosity, you begin the sacred work of becoming whole, not perfect, but real, fully human, fully free. Have you ever wondered why you seem to block your own progress? Why just when things are going well, something inside you pulls the brakes? Carl Jung would tell you that this is not sabotage. It's a split self, a conflict between the you that longs for freedom and the you that's been trained to fear it. Self-sabotage isn't laziness, it's not weakness. It's the unconscious crying out, I don't feel safe being this version of me. Somewhere along the line you learned that success made you a target, that love came with pain, that happiness was dangerous. These beliefs didn't come from nowhere. They were absorbed quietly through experience and environment. And until they are brought into awareness, they operate in the background like silent scripts. You may be trying to build a new life, but if the old self still sees it as unsafe, it will find a way to burn the foundation before it settles. Putting yourself first isn't a slogan, it's a deep psychological reorientation. It's saying, I am no longer available for the patterns that protect my trauma at the expense of my truth. When you do that, when you choose safety within instead of chaos outside, something powerful happens. The sabotage stops, the fear subsides, and the self begins to unify. This is what Jung meant by individuation, not becoming someone new, but becoming who you truly are beneath the noise. The self that no longer betrays itself to belong. The self that no longer punishes itself for existing. The self that is no longer split between desire and fear. When you put yourself first, you don't become selfish, you become sane. And in that sanity, your soul remembers, you were never the enemy, you were the key all along. As we reach the culmination of this profound exploration into the teachings of Carl Jung and the intricate tapestry of the human psyche, it's imperative to reflect on the journey we've undertaken. We've delved into the depths of self-awareness, confronting the shadows that lurk within, and embracing the transformative power of prioritizing oneself. Jung's insights have illuminated the path to emotional healing, emphasizing the necessity of acknowledging and integrating every facet of our being. In this voyage of self-discovery, we've recognized that true healing transcends mere acknowledgement. It demands action. It requires us to dismantle the facades we've constructed, to challenge the narratives that have confined us, and to step into the light of authenticity. By doing so, we not only liberate ourselves but also pave the way for deeper connections with others, fostering relationships rooted in truth and mutual respect. Now, as we stand at this pivotal juncture, I invite you to consider the profound love that underpins our very existence. A love that is unwavering, unconditional, and all-encompassing. This love is not merely a concept, but a living, breathing force that seeks to envelop us, to guide us, and to offer solace in our moments of despair. In the midst of our struggles and triumphs, there's a timeless truth that resonates. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. This verse encapsulates the essence of divine love, a love so immense that it transcends human understanding, offering redemption and eternal life to all who embrace it. This isn't about religion or doctrine, it's about a relationship, a personal connection with a loving Creator who desires nothing more than to walk alongside you, to share in your joys and sorrows, and to offer a peace that surpasses all understanding. It's an invitation to experience a love that heals, restores, and transforms. If your heart feels stirred, if there's a yearning within you for something more, I encourage you to take a step of faith. Open your heart to this love and consider inviting the Lord Jesus Christ into your life as your Savior. It's a decision that doesn't require perfection, only a willingness to believe and to embark on a journey of growth and transformation. As we conclude this exploration, I want to express my deepest gratitude for your presence and engagement. Your journey is unique, and your story matters. If this message has resonated with you, I invite you to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights and experiences enrich our community and inspire others on their paths. Remember, you are not alone. There is a love that surrounds you, a purpose that awaits you, and a community that supports you. Embrace the journey, and may you find peace, healing, and fulfillment in every step you take. Thank you for being a part of this journey. Until next time, stay true to yourself, seek the truth, and let love be your guiding light.